What if I told you that Ram is going to make a shocking announcement that will completely upend the auto industry? For years, a small number of major players have controlled the automotive industry. But now Ram, one of the leading truck manufacturers, is making a decision that could change everything. Not just their dealers, but also the way that consumers purchase trucks going forward. No one saw this coming. So what's really going on at Ram? What impact will this move have on truck prices? And why should you care if you plan to purchase a car within the next year? What Ram does next could save you thousands of dollars, or it could cost you a fortune. The abrupt change Ram is at the forefront of a monumental shift in the automotive industry. Stellantis, the parent company of Ram, recently revealed a strategy that few could have foreseen. A broad reduction in manufacturers' suggested retail prices across their lineup, with some models seeing discounts of up to 35%. What's even more shocking is that some of their trucks are seeing price reductions of up to 60%. This isn't your typical promotional offer. What's causing this drastic action is a decision that has the potential to completely change the automotive market, including how cars are priced, sold, and perceived. The solution is nothing short of radical. Over the past couple of years, Ram dealerships have struggled with an abundance of unsold 2022 and 2023 models that have been sitting idle on lots, taking up space and increasing carrying costs for Stellantis. Instead of letting these trucks linger, the company has decided to drastically cut prices, making them more appealing to buyers and opening the way for new models. However, this move isn't just about stock clearance. It's a strategy designed to redefine how Ram and possibly the entire automotive industry operates for competitors. This action immediately raises concerns. What does this mean for the long-term pricing structure in the truck market, dealer dilemma, and how will other manufacturers react? Can they afford to match these discounts? Dealers are currently dealing with a difficult and complex new reality. For example, imagine spending a lot of money on a car that was originally priced at $60,000 only to have it reduced to $38,000 a few months later. This is a startling but common occurrence for Ram dealers nationwide. There is more to the unsold inventory for 2022 and 2023 than just lost sales. These cars' revenue is causing interest, taking up valuable lot space, and putting dealers under unavoidable financial strain. Stellantis' choice to enforce sweeping prices. Cuts have two sides. On the one hand, they help move inventory, but on the other, they significantly hurt dealer margins and long-term profitability. It's critical to realize that these price cuts are not optional. Dealers' ERS have little option but to comply with Stellantis' mandate for specific models. Price reductions of over $20,000 are unprecedented and would have been unimaginable only a few months ago. This strategy also clears the lots to make room for newer models. It also calls into question whether such steep discounts can be sustained. Dealers are caught in the middle, attempting to strike a balance between the possibility of future sales growth and immediate financial losses. A revised price paradigm. When was the last time a car manufacturer made a 60% price reduction? It's practically unheard of, but Stellantis is doing just that by reducing MSRPs by up to 35% on all of them. Ram has reversed the conventional wisdom regarding car pricing, and older inventory in particular is experiencing previously unheard of reductions, giving buyers a unique chance to buy premium trucks for a fraction of their previous price. This isn't just a temporary sale, though. With these cuts, the market is being purposefully reshaped, and customer expectations are being redefined. These trucks are now more reasonably priced than ever before, potentially reaching a whole new market of buyers. For consumers, this is a boon, but for the industry, it's a seismic shift that other automakers must adapt to. Like the Ram 1500, traditional models were regarded as luxury cars with price tags to match. Ford cannot be ignored. General Motors and other rivals are currently under tremendous pressure to react. They must either match Stellantis' aggressive pricing or risk losing market share. This could lead to a pricing war that fundamentally alters how trucks are valued and sold. The new pricing structure has a mixed effect on consumers. Some benefit from lower costs, while others who bought vehicles prior to these cuts find themselves at a disadvantage. For example, if a customer buys a truck for $60,000 and it is reduced to $40,000 a few months later, they now have negative equity, meaning that the remaining loan balance exceeds the vehicle's market value. This financial burden can pose significant difficulties. Customers who intend to trade in their cars might discover that they owe much more than the value of their trucks, forcing them into difficult-to-repay loans. Beyond the monetary consequences, there is an emotional cost. Once confident buyers may now experience buyer's regret. For those who thought they were making a wise investment, the abrupt price reductions may be a painful pill to swallow, causing them to lose faith in the Ram brand. Maintaining customer loyalty in the face of these profound changes will be a crucial test, as Atlantis may falter and raise concerns about the company's long-term reputation. A cascading effect. Stellantis' pricing strategy has consequences that go beyond just boosting sales right away, because it establishes a new standard for affordability. Other automakers will have to adjust as Ram is changing the competitive landscape, which could lead to a surge of comparable discounts. As prices decline, this race to the bottom may turn the truck market from a high-end, profit-driven sector into a more cost-driven battlefield. Manufacturers might need to come up with new ways to set their cars apart, like innovative features, improved technology, or superior service packages. In the coming months, the industry will be closely monitoring consumer reaction. If Stellantis's gamble pays off and sales increase, other automakers might follow suit. Regardless of the result, if it backfires, it might lead to a reassessment of the entire pricing model. The automotive industry is undoubtedly entering uncharted territory, and Stellantis's audacious move will have a significant long-term effect. Despite providing a short-term discount, this is more than just getting rid of outdated inventory. Stellantis's choice to drastically lower MSRPs is a well-thought-out move to alter the pricing and sales of trucks. It's a calculated move meant to reposition Ram in a cutthroat market, challenge established conventions, and establish a new benchmark. For affordability as rivals rush to react and customers negotiate the shifting terrain, the industry as a whole is also undergoing a transformation. Stellantis has made a daring move for the future of car pricing, and the ripple effects will last for years as rivals respond. This is where things start to get really interesting. What will General Motors and Ford do if Ram cuts prices like this? Ram's steep price cuts are not merely a ripple in the truck market. Rather, they are a huge wave that will probably cause shockwaves throughout the whole automotive sector. 2 of the largest companies in the pickup truck market, Ford and General Motors, are now faced with an obstacle they cannot ignore as Ram reduces prices by up to 35%. If they want to stay competitive, their rivals will have no option but to follow suit. For many years, the Ford F-150 and General Motors Chevrolet Silverado have been the two most well-liked trucks in America. Hefty price tags, and customers have been willing to pay them in part because they are the well-known truck brands. But Ram has now put them to the test with their price cuts, and it is still unclear if Ford and General Motors will be able to keep their current prices, or if they will have to cut their own. These automakers do not make the decision to cut prices lightly. Their margins, which are already being squeezed by rising production costs and supply chain problems, could be significantly impacted by a price cut. Ford and General Motors have invested heavily in their trucks, both in terms of technology and luxury features, which have driven up the cost of these vehicles for years. Both companies have worked to position their trucks as premium options, with high-end features and advanced technology. But now Ram's aggressive pricing strategy could make those premium trucks look overpriced to consumers. If Ford and General Motors do follow suit, it could trigger a full-scale price war. While this might seem like a good thing for consumers, in the short term, the long-term implications could be disastrous for both the automakers and their dealership networks, with prices slashed across the board. The consumer perception of value could shift, making it harder for these companies to maintain the premium image they've worked so hard to build. The risk of a race to the bottom in pricing is very real in the automotive industry. Competition is fierce, and pricing is one of the most powerful full levers that automakers can pull to gain market share. But if every truck maker is offering their products at the lowest possible price, they will all end up competing on price alone, with very little room for differentiation. The once highly coveted Ford F-150 or Chevrolet Silverado could end up looking just like any other truck, and the result could be a downward spiral for all brands involved. But Ram isn't just disrupting its competitors, it's shaking up the entire dealership model, and that's where things get even more complicated. Getting through the fire sale. Let's return to the pressure that dealerships are under, because we need to discuss something, particularly for those that mainly depend on the sale of Ram trucks. With the impending fire sale, dealerships are finding it difficult to meet the demand for discounts while still turning a profit. Dealers are in a precarious situation as a result of Ram's aggressive pricing strategy. On the one hand, they must move stock quickly to clear out old inventory and make room for the next generation of vehicles, but on the other hand, they still need to make sure they don't lose money in the process. For instance, Ram 1500s from 2022 and 2023 are still sitting on lots, and even though Ram is pressuring these dealerships to sell them, it's difficult to move vehicles that are priced too high in comparison to the new models with massive price reductions. The challenge is particularly difficult for those dealers who have already invested a significant amount in these older models. With some trucks priced between $6,000 and $70,000, it's difficult to sell, especially now that Ram is offering the same models for a significantly lower price. Ram is also offering additional incentives like cash rebates and special financing deals to encourage dealerships to sell older models at a loss, which may help move trucks, but also reduces dealership profits. This price drop is not just about lowering the sticker price. It's also about getting dealers to lower their expectations. Dealers must now decide whether to follow Ram's example and cut prices, possibly at the expense of their own profitability, or to maintain these cars at the manufacturer's recommended retail price and risk holding on to them indefinitely. This is where the dilemma lies. Lowering prices is one thing, but what happens if the dealers lose their shirt on each sale with so much inventory stacked up, and the pressure to sell dealerships are being pushed to take huge risks just to stay afloat. And with Ram's offering of monetary incentives, dealers are encouraged to sell their old stock at lower prices. But this is a short-term solution that could leave them financially strained in the long term. This constant cycle of price cuts and profit losses will only harm the dealership model. Dealers could be left with little margin for error. And as these price wars continue, the question arises, how sustainable is this business model? Can dealerships afford to keep selling trucks at a loss just to maintain their relationship with Ram and other manufacturers? And this leads to a major shift in how cars are sold. But there's an even bigger factor at play, the financial pressure. Who's really paying? What if I told you that the real cost of these massive discounts isn't coming out of Ram's pocket? It's coming from somewhere else in reality. It's the dealers who are bearing the brunt of these price cuts. While Ram and Stellantis may appear to be offering incredible deals, they're not the ones directly taking the financial hit. Instead, the cost is being passed on to dealerships in the form of incentives and special interest rates. These incentives are intended to encourage dealerships to reduce their prices and move inventory. But they are also placing further financial strain on already financially troubled dealerships. While these incentives can be beneficial in the short term, they come with their own set of drawbacks. Stellantis is encouraging dealerships to sell older inventory by providing back-end money, which means the dealers are effectively getting paid by the manufacturer to sell these vehicles. This does not imply that Ram and Stellantis are losing money, but rather that they are shifting the financial burden onto the dealership network. Dealerships are receiving financial incentives and requests to sell older, less desirable cars at steep discounts. But what will happen if this becomes the norm? How long can a dealership make ends meet on these thin margins, particularly when every new model is priced to sell quickly and the incentives keep coming? Even though this tactic might appear to be a great deal for the customer, it has unclear long-term effects or costs. What occurs if dealerships stop believing in the brand they are meant to sell? The truth is, it's happening right now as Stellantis pushes its dealerships to sell vehicles at a loss. Many dealers are starting to lose trust in the brand they're supposed to represent. There are reports that a growing number of dealerships are frustrated with Stellantis' handling of the situation. In fact, some dealers have gone so far as to say that if they had the option, they wouldn't take a Stellantis franchise at all. Right now, dealers feel they're being asked to sacrifice their profitability for the sake of moving product. And that's causing a significant rift between the manufacturer and its retail network. In some cases, dealers are feeling betrayed as the financial pressure is becoming too much to bear. What's worse, as dealers lose trust in the brand, it's likely that their customers will too, when a brand is constantly pushing its dealers to sell at a loss. It undermines the sense of loyalty and partnership that dealerships expect from their manufacturers. This breakdown in trust could have severe long-term consequences for Stellantis customers, who feel they're not getting a good deal, or that the brand is unstable, may choose to switch to competitors like Ford or General Motors, who may seem more dependable and stable in comparison. But don't believe Ram is in the clear. The fallout from this upheaval could alter the automotive market for years to come. A brand that is unable to retain the loyalty of its dealer network runs the risk of alienating its customers as well. For years, trucks like the Ram 1500 have been sold at premium prices, and for good reason. People are willing to pay top dollar for these vehicles. However, now that there is an excess of unsold 22 and 23 models sitting on dealership lots, Ram is taking drastic measures to get them off the shelves. Dealers are being forced to drop prices by as much as 35%, sometimes even more, to make room for newer models. Imagine this. A truck that was once priced at $70,000 could be marked down to $38,000, creating a massive price shift in the market. Gap is a shock to the market and consumers, and it's not limited to Ram trucks. When Ram, a major player in the EI truck segment, starts lowering prices, other brands like Ford and General Motors are bound to notice. Customers will naturally compare these steep discounts on Ram trucks with the prices of competing vehicles. If the Ram 1500 is suddenly significantly less expensive than a similarly equipped Ford F-150 or GMC Sierra, people will naturally gravitate towards Ram. This pricing shift is causing a chain reaction throughout the entire automotive market. Behavior will compel other producers to reevaluate their own pricing policies, potentially igniting a full-scale pricing war that could change the market. What's taking place? This goes beyond simply choosing a price. Although the current focus is on trucks, Ram's strategy has the potential to completely transform how trucks are priced and sold in the future. The ripple effects could eventually change the entire automotive industry. But it's not just about the trucks. It could also affect how every consumer purchases a vehicle going forward. Since dealerships have long relied on their physical locations to sell cars, more consumers are choosing to shop for cars online. This trend has only accelerated with the rise of online sales platforms that enable people to browse inventory, compare prices, and even complete the entire purchase process without leaving their homes. This trend is known as the digital dealership revolution. Due to the ease of shopping from home, digital platforms are becoming more and more popular, and they are beginning to change how automakers and dealerships handle sales. In fact, a number of large manufacturers have increased their efforts to switch to digital sales, providing virtual showrooms and online sales tools that let customers finish their purchases with a few clicks. How does this relate to Ram's pricing strategy, given that Ram is lowering its prices? More buyers will use internet resources to evaluate offers. Traditional dealerships that depend on face-to-face interactions may begin to lose business if they don't quickly adapt, as these digital platforms gain traction as customers look for the best prices, without having to deal with haggling at traditional dealerships. Traditional dealerships are being forced to reevaluate their sales strategies due to the digital shift. If they don't provide competitive pricing and clear information, they run the risk of losing clients to online platforms that can offer better offers and a more convenient experience. However, the bigger question is whether this will encourage Ram to further expand their pricing strategy if online platforms continue to gain traction. Ram may discover that aggressive price reductions will enable them to control both the digital sales market and Ram's future. What comes next? If you believe Ram has finished upending things, reconsider the cost of Ram. We're seeing them aggressively cut prices to clear out inventory and gain a larger market share. But once the market stabilizes, will Ram continue to push these drastic price cuts, or will they change their strategy? There's a lot at stake here. Cuts aren't just a one-time event. They're part of a broader strategy that could continue to evolve. Ram is playing a long game, and if they can become the preferred brand for truck buyers on a tight budget, they could solidify their place in the market. However, there are risks associated with this strategy. If they keep lowering prices too much, they risk alienating higher-end customers who are seeking premium features and finishes. Additionally, Ram may find it difficult to maintain these lower price points on new models if it runs out of inventory of older trucks to cut prices on. At some point, their pricing power may diminish, and they will need to figure out how to adjust to avoid devaluing their brand. Ram's future is still up in the air, but one thing is certain. This strategy has already had a significant impact on the market, and the effects will last for years to come. What does this mean for you as a consumer? Imagine if the truck you're currently eyeing was 30% less expensive in a few months. Would you then decide whether to buy a truck now or wait for further price reductions? The truth is that timing will be crucial because Ram's price cuts are already upending the market, and it's possible that other automakers will follow suit. If you're considering purchasing a truck, it might be worthwhile to wait a little while longer to see if prices continue to decline. But there's a catch. As prices decline and more buyers turn to online platforms, the best course of action is to stay informed and keep an eye out for price trends, because dealerships may shift toward a more standardized pricing system, which could eliminate some of the flexibility and negotiating opportunities that customers have previously enjoyed. This is a special period in the automotive market, so keep an eye on changes in the market and be prepared to take action when the right offer arises. And the following few months may present excellent opportunities for buyers who are well informed. However, despite the fact that this may appear to be an opportunity, there is one final major obstacle to take into consideration, and that is the economic fallout. What happens when a truck that costs $60,000 becomes a truck that costs $30,000? The economy will feel it, and not in the way that you might think. More than just a headline. This significant decrease in truck prices is a significant development. It is a tidal wave that will send shockwaves through the entire automotive industry. It is important to take a step back and consider the wider economic impact that these massive price cuts will have. First off, we have to think about how this move will affect consumer spending, when trucks, which are often considered significant investments, suddenly become half the price. Consumers will be in a frenzy. People who were once on the fence about buying a new vehicle may now find themselves in a position where the value is too good to pass up. This surge in demand could temporarily boost sales, but it's not a sustainable long-term growth strategy. Customers or clients may flock to dealerships now, but once the initial wave subsides, the long-term effects may be more troubling for dealerships. This creates a paradox. On one hand, it's a chance to clear out old inventory that's been sitting on lots for far too long, costing them money every day. It remains unsold. On the other hand, the same dealerships are facing a razor-thin margin when it comes to moving these trucks at such steep discounts. Massive discounts are currently consuming the funds that were going to be used for profits in the past. Dealerships are caught between a rock and a hard place. But the true economic fallout won't be felt immediately because of special interest rates and other incentives designed to move these vehicles off the lot. The economic strain is palpable, and dealerships are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Downturn in the market that is stealthy. The impact of this fire sale on new trucks is set to ripple through the used vehicle market, which will see its values plummet when a consumer can get a new truck for the same price, or even less than a used one. The demand for pre-owned trucks will disappear. This can cause a domino effect where the value of used trucks drops drastically, leaving those who bought them at a premium with an asset that's worth far less than they paid for it now. There's a catch-22 at play. While consumers may enjoy the immediate benefits of lower truck prices, they'll likely feel the sting of any equity in their vehicles over the next few years. People who bought trucks at full price will find themselves stuck in a situation where their truck's resale value has dropped drastically. Leaving them this negative equity crisis will create a massive burden not just on consumers, but on the broader economy as well. And if Stellantis continues to push these fire sales, it's not just one brand being impacted, it's the entire industry. So what's really at stake here? It's not just about the pricing strategy of one company. It's about how this unprecedented move could fundamentally alter the economic landscape of the entire automotive industry. The question is no longer whether these price cuts are a good idea. The real question is, how will this strategy reverberate across the market, and what will it mean for the future? The end of an era for decades. The Ford. What happens when a relative newcomer like Ram comes in and upends the entire market with aggressive pricing tactics? The risk is that Ram's new strategy could begin a domino effect, forcing these traditional brands to rethink their entire approach. General Motors and other legacy brands have been the giants of the automotive world, leading the charge with their long-established reputations, massive dealer networks, and loyal customer bases. However, what happens when Ram comes in and upends the entire market? The automotive companies Ford and General Motors are already having a difficult time adapting to the changing landscape of consumer demand, particularly in light of the increasing popularity of electric vehicles and the growing desire for technologically advanced features. Ram's pricing model could accelerate this pressure, pushing legacy brands into a corner where they have no choice but to adopt similar strategies, just to stay competitive. This isn't just about trucks anymore. Ram's approach to cutting prices could signal a complete shift in how manufacturers price and sell vehicles as consumer behavior increasingly shifts towards valuing cost-effectiveness and immediate savings. Manufacturers may have no choice but to follow suit. It could become a race to the bottom where each brand continually lowers its prices to attract customers, creating a market where low prices are prioritized over brand loyalty or quality. But Ram's AGG strategy might also create opportunities for a new breed of automakers. There is a possibility that smaller and more agile businesses will take note of Ram's success and attempt to replicate its marketing strategy. Those consumers who place the utmost importance on price and are willing to forego traditional brand loyalty in exchange for immediate financial relief are the kind of customers that these upcoming automobile manufacturers might be able to attract. It is possible that this will mark the end of the dominance of legacy brands, which will be replaced by a new generation of manufacturers who are aware that the future will be about providing affordable and high-quality products for the masses. However, one thing is certain: the automotive industry will never be the same again. The rise of budget-conscious purchasing, in conjunction with Ram's new market tactics, may create an entirely new competitive landscape in which traditional brands will struggle to maintain their position. Is this the right time for electric trucks? What if Ram's price cuts make it possible for electric trucks to become the new standard? Electric vehicles have already gained momentum, and the truck segment has been the final frontier in this green revolution for a prolonged period of time. It is possible that Ram's aggressive pricing will be the catalyst that propels electric trucks into the mainstream. After all, what is the point of purchasing a gas-guzzling truck when consumers are facing steep price cuts on new models and the future is increasingly shifting toward electric power? This intersection of price cuts and growing demand for electric trucks creates the perfect storm, as consumers flock to dealerships looking for affordable options. Many of these consumers may begin to consider electric trucks as a viable alternative, while others may not. Long-term savings from fuel efficiency tax incentives and reduced maintenance costs make electric trucks an attractive option for many people. It is possible that electric trucks will soon be the smarter choice. The market for electric trucks is ripe for innovation. The initial cost of an electric truck may still be higher. With more consumers becoming environmentally conscious, there is an increasing demand for environmentally friendly vehicles that align with their values. This could spark a new era of electric truck dominance, turning what was once a niche market into the new norm. Automobile manufacturers who want to compete with Ram's pricing will need to view electric trucks as a serious option. If Ram's aggressive pricing forces other brand BRS to follow suit, it could fast-track the transition to electric trucks, bringing automakers into a rapidly growing market. This shift toward greener, more cost-effective vehicles could redefine the entire industry, forcing both legacy and new brands to race toward a sustainable future. The question now is whether consumers and manufacturers are ready for this revolution. What's your thoughts on this? Let's know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching.